Since the last ice age, the Gorge waterway has sustained rich and dynamic ecosystems, which provide shelter and sustenance for an amazing range of biodiversity. 3 major watersheds empty into the gorge, mixing their fresh water and nutrients into the intertidal environment. Countless human stories rest forgotten in the sediments here, layer upon layer through the ages. Without these stories to connect us to our natural heritage, we may lose sight of the importance of stewardship of our landscapes.
In the last 200 years, significant land use changes have occurred in the Gorge waterway. In the last couple decades, fishermen and fisheries have noticed a decline in the herring run. And within the last 7 years, the Gorge herring run has ceased to spawn. We became interested in the stories attached to these special herring when we were made aware that the population was no longer spawning. Dawn and I began a personal investigation of the herring in the Gorge waterway. Our investigation began with collecting local narratives, interviewing, reading and researching past and present. We asked, are the herring important to people as part of their connection to the local landscape? What is the power of local narratives surrounding herring to engage local stewardship of the Gorge waterway herring run? First Nations traditional knowledge is virtually unavailable. Where did herring spawn historically? Was it a main food source? How was it used? What part did people eat? Were they harvesting fish or just the roe? We don't know. We do know the herring were important to the Lekwungen. Their place name translates to the land of the smoked herring.
So that makes me wonder, Kelly, have you ever eaten a herring?
No. Have you ever seen one?
No, not in real life. So are the herring even important?
Who are they important to and why?
We asked some local people for their stories, current local narratives and perspectives.
And then now that they're 15 and 11, now I adopted a dog, and I'm jogging him around the gorge every day. Keeping us in shape. It's a beautiful scenic place. It's safe and lovely and great people. Oh, I used to fish off the bridge when I was younger, yeah, with my boyfriend and I, and used to give him to his father for bait. It was fun. We would have rods, and have all the jigs on it, and then you would jig for the fish if it was cold. That's about, I'm going to say, 20 years ago now. There was a lot of herring, a lot of fish. The bridge used to be full of people. Not so many people now.
Yeah.
I don't know if where all the herring has gone, but it just doesn't seem like there's as many people out as there used to be 20 years ago.
One of our family sayings is, if somebody is lucky about something, it's, oh geez, you could fall in the gorge and come out smelling like a rose. My dad was a fisher, and he was always a fisher. And he would skip school sometimes, and but he would be fishing for herring on the Gorge Bridge. Like there were family pictures, and it was sort of part of a family story when the run came. And I remember as a kid being excited when it was time, because you'd see all the guys. There'd be like, the whole bridge field seemed to be full of fishermen. And I noticed that there's only 2 guys fishing there now, this year. And it's appallingly sad.
I fished here since I was around 8 years old. I really didn't get into herring until pretty recently.
Okay.
So the first time I went right onto the bridge over there, and I caught around 5 each day. Last year, I've seen a decrease in the amount of people amount of fish people have been catching around the bridge.
Okay.
Even with expert people who go every day for almost all of the fishing season or before. Mom first taught me about how there is fish even in this body of water, and she told me that the main fish was herring. So I decided that I wanted to catch some, and then she pointed me towards the bridge and gave me the proper gear and said, "Go." Because I live in this area, I know a lot of people here, and I know one fisherman who fishes herring, and he always notifies me when I'm walking to school. So I just walk over the bridge and said, "Oh, it's herring season." So yes, they're highly important. So if they get wiped out, it's going to affect everything. All the trophic levels going up. I'm doing marine biology next year, so I've been researching a bit onto it, and it seems like the small fish are the most important for the habitat.
Local fishermen, the media, conservationists, and scientists all contribute to the story as well.
It sounds like there are a lot of different perspectives.
Okay, so Dawn, what's the real story?
As the stories and explicit connections to the fish decline, the stewardship declines, and the picture becomes blurry. We need all these stories and perspectives together. Changes over time to the gorge and the oceans have directly affected the landscape of the fish and how we relate to them. Maybe if you don't fish for them, you don't eat them, and they're not important to you.
Conflicting information and multiple perspectives, stories and ideas, muddies the waters. There are many different types of knowledge and ways of knowing. So, if we can bring people and their narratives and knowledge together, maybe we can form a clearer picture.
Oh, Callie, what does it all mean? What are the connections here?
Well, I think we've come to find out that through landscape narrative and local connections to the gorge, people don't explicitly make stewardship connections. I don't think they feel innate responsibility for the health of the land and the creatures that inhabit it. Perspectives and voices do all weave together into the story of the gorge herring, which can actively inform our stewardship practices and participation. As we wanted to inspire deeper awareness and stewardship practices for the herring, we decided there was one thing we could do. Since the herring didn't run this year, we held the first annual Human Herring Run. Together, we are building new stories and continuing the old ones, forming a larger picture.
All these stories are vital to our feeling of connection and our current and future stewardship of the waterway. We lose the threads of a larger weaving when we stop telling and listening to our stories of enjoyment.
What do you call a fish with no eye?
No idea.